So team, today I have some Underfollowed CGC 9.8 DC comics to recommend. And yeah, this should be a pretty great list of some slightly under the radar DC key issues to consider. Alrighty, so let's have a look here. First up is a Batman number 657. So Batman 657 here, you're probably thinking like, why not 655 or 656? Because those two are, it's the first cameo and first full appearance of Damian in those books. So 657 will kind of go down as like the second full appearance of Damian, I guess. But in this book, you get a fight between kind of Tim Drake, Robin, and Damian. It'll kind of go down as well. It's going to be the first appearance of Damian as Robin. And for me, like, you know, being familiar with some DC content in the past couple of years, like every time I see Damian, he's Robin. So I think first appearance of Damian Robin is a little bit of an undervalued first appearance key issue right now, I think. Certainly if you're a Batman fan, yeah, it's kind of hit me in the last few days here. A pretty cool one. So it's a 1 of 93 in the CGC 9.8 blue label. So that's pretty great. This is definitely underfollowed compared to 655 and 656. There's a lot more 9.8s in those ones. For good reason too. Like, I'm not saying, you know, buy this one and don't buy those. I think this one's just really overlooked. But first, Damian Robin. And it's kind of cool how it happens in the book. Like, he basically kicks Tim Drake's butt. And then at the end, he's like, I'm the new Robin. He's got a lot of attitude at this point, Damian as well. But it's the 9.8 ratio, 77.5% of all graded copies in the blue label are 9.8. So nothing to really write home about in the 9.8 relative rarity. But I saw a CGC 9.8 in an auction sell for $102.50 in this one. So this one's right around $100, a good one, right around that $100 price range. Whenever you can get a 9.8 around that $100 with some potential, it's pretty attractive. So $102.50 was an auction price. I think that's a good price. So, you know, people probably pay up to like $125 to $135 if, you know, if you're a big Damian fan. But I think Batman 657 is one to think about, and certainly kind of overlooked because, again, 655, 656, taking up most of the limelight. All right, next one here is a Swamp Thing Annual number 2. So this one is a pretty cool one. I think it's got a great cover, so great eye-appealing cover, and you're sort of getting the assembly and the first sort of hints of Justice League Dark in this comic. You hear people talk about this one, it's like a Justice League Dark prototype, I guess. So maybe like Deadman and John Constantine are getting together in this one. I didn't read this one specifically, but also too, someone on the team had let me know this one predates. Because it's an annual, it just says like the year. It doesn't give you the month, but he said that this one predates Justice League, or Saga of the Swamp Thing number 49 and 50, which are sort of the first appearance of Justice League Dark. Those are a little bit more common. So this one a bit more underfollowed. A cool one in the 9.8. Yeah, Swamp Thing Annual number 2. 37 9.8s in the blue label. A 1 of 37. I mean, any like Justice League Dark movie or something like that, a 1 of 37, this one's really expensive compared to some of the prices now. I think this one, certainly if you're a Justice League Dark fan, this is 1-to-1. 34% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8s in the blue label. Not too bad. It's an 80s book, so not too special though. $199.99 was the last one I had saw on eBay. And I think GoCollect's got the fair value a little bit lower, but I have a feeling with this one, a 1 of 37, really cool cover. If you can get one for $200, absolutely, maybe even up to $250 for this one, for one of those 37 in the 9.8. Certainly, if you're a big Justice League Dark fan, Swamp Thing Annual number 2 is making a lot of sense, I think. All right, next one here, some underfollowed DC 9.8s. Batman Beyond number 2. Yeah, this one's a cool one. Myself being a big Batman Beyond fan, and just a Batman fan in general. Yeah, this is a bit of a Batman-centric DC list, admittedly, but Batman Beyond number 2, a little known factoid about Batman Beyond. In the first issue, Terry McGinnis doesn't get into the Batman Beyond suit yet. So in the second issue, he gets into the suit, and you see Terry as Batman Beyond like we all know him nowadays. But that doesn't happen in issue 1, and you know, a lot of people, it's first appearance of Terry McGinnis in issue 1, and he is kind of on the cover as a Batman Beyond, so, you know, but within the book, it doesn't happen until issue 2. So this is going down as kind of first appearance of Terry McGinnis as Batman Beyond in Batman Beyond number 2. So I think a good underfollowed, undervalued 9.8 to think about. 48 9.8s in the blue label. So when I bought mine, it was like 12 or 13 in the 9.8, and I think not a lot of people were thinking about that little factoid where yeah, this is the first Terry as Batman Beyond. So now it's up to 48 in the blue label, 63.2%, the 9.8 percentage. So not really trending too relatively rare. But some of the prices. I saw a recent auction. This one just ending in the last few days here for $201.50. And yeah, if you're a big Batman Beyond fan, and I certainly am, I got the whole set from kind of 1 to 6 in the raw as well, 2 times over. So I got a few of these in the raw as well. But I think this is a cool one to have in the 9.8 if you're a Batman Beyond fan. $201.50 in auction price. I think that's a good deal. So yeah, right around 200, maybe even up to 250, I think is kind of worth it if you're a big Batman Beyond fan. Because the first one, first issue 9.8, is like 2,300 now. I think that recent auction had ended. We'll have to document that one on a price video. I forget it off the top of my head, but there was a recent auction for Batman Beyond #1 and this one from the same seller. This one went for $201.50. So Batman Beyond #2 is an underfollowed one to consider. Next one here is a classic that's underfollowed. It's a great collector item in the 9.8. Pretty cool to see some of the prices for this one as well. Detective Comics 523. Yeah, this is just a Batman classic key issue for me. This one always stuck out for me from my childhood. I like Batman comics all along, and it was this issue and Batman 357. This one had the kind of yellow cover, and then the 357 is the kind of the green toned cover. But I always like this one. Yeah, I really like this one a lot more than 357, just from the eye appeal, like as a kid, and sort of seeing this one and remembering it. So it was one I targeted it in the 9.8. It's a Killer Croc cameo in this one too. So the first time you kind of see Killer Croc. And a 1 of 39. Yeah, 39 9.8s in the blue label. 1 of 39. I like that when I was buying it. Like, I was pretty surprised. Yeah, for me, this is a pretty big Batman key issue. A 1 of 39 is an awesome collector item. 21.4%, the 9.8 percentage. So you don't see the 1 of 39. I'm not seeing too many of these sell. Go Collect has the fair value at $550, and it was maybe a month or two ago I saw one creep. I think it sold just over 500. It was in an auction as well, and so I purchased mine. It was 280 to 290, and I think this was early last year, maybe late 2019. It was somewhat recently, but yeah, just under 300. Now they're over 500, so trending nicely. A tough one to find in the 9.8, so it's pretty expensive too, but maybe you consider this one in the raw. But a classic Bat book that's a little bit too underfollowed, I think, for me. I think it's a Batman key, and seems to be pretty rare in the high grade. Certainly a 1 of 39 is awesome, I think. So if you're a Batman fan, Detective Comics 523 is one to think about. Next one is absolutely one to think about too. Detective Comics 471. This is the first modern appearance of Hugo Strange. So Hugo Strange, a pretty classic Batman villain, I think. And this one's a cool one. One of maybe my bigger regrets in collecting. There was this book had come up in a 9.8. It was $399.99. So $400, but this one's a great collector item. I'm a big Batman fan. I like some of these first appearance of Batman villains for sure. There's 23 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. So one of those 23 I saw for $399.99. Buy it now. Put it on my watch list, and it sold like 2 days later. So sometimes if you see a deal and you know a deal and you got the cash, it's probably just best to purchase it. So 14.9%, the 9.8 ratio on this one, a great ratio. This one getting into the 70s, so it's older, but a 1 of 23 with a pretty great ratio. It's a fantastic collector item. So mention that one there, $399.99. That was it 6 months ago, maybe now. So I think now, the market's kind of come along, a little bit. I think it would be similar in price to about a Detective 523. So I think, this one, 550 being a fair value, Go Collect's got it at. I think you do pretty well to do 500, 550 for Detective 471. First appearance of Hugo Strange. Yeah, definitely an underfollowed one. This is one I kind of just discovered myself maybe 6 months ago. I think it was sort of when I saw that first listing. I wasn't really aware of first modern appearance of Hugo Strange, but he's pretty cool. And I've watched the Gotham show quite often, and he's in the Gotham show quite a bit. All right, next one here for some underfollowed DC books. This one's a great one. Green Lantern #141. in the 9.8. Such a cool collector item in the 9.8. But this one's first appearance of Omega Man. And I think Omega Man is certainly under the radar and pretty speculative right now. But if DC ever wanted to do like a Guardians of the Galaxy type of, but DC, Omega Man is that for me. And, you know, it would, I think they could, you know, make a pretty good movie, much like Marvel has made Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's like the ultimate potential of this book. It being a first appearance of Mega Man. Great George Perez cover, too. Yeah, that's a fantastic classic cover. Like, if Omega Man ever blow up in any way, this is going to be a steal at the price I got it at. And I think if you can find one now, it's still a steal at probably some of the prices you can get now. Pretty underfollowed, though. A 1 of 34 in the CGC 9.8. You love that about underfollowed books, and then underfollowed DC books, even a little bit less, you know, circulated, I think, than Marvel books, so they're even kind of better collector items in the 9.8. A 1 of 34, 16.1%, the 9.8 ratio, not too bad. Again, not seeing any on eBay of this one selling the last like 3 months. There's only 34 of them out there. I bought mine for just over $300. It was, I think it was like $325, something like that. And that, I'm pretty sure it was a buy it now. I didn't feel like I was getting a deal on it, like it wasn't in an auction or anything like that. So $325, and this was getting on a year ago. I think it was early last year I'd purchased this one. So I think now I got it for $325, around $500. Yeah, these are all pretty kind of similar type of books where there's not a lot of them in the 9.8, but they're pretty great key issues, and they're selling for, you know, right around $500 to $550 for, you know, I think that's totally worth it. A 1 of 34 for one of these 34, $500 to $550. First Omega Man, a high potential first appearance. So Green Lantern 141 is definitely an underfollowed one to think about. All right, next one here. Which one should I show? We'll go for this one. A Batman 423 in the 9.8. Yeah, a classic Todd McFarlane Batman cover. The best Todd McFarlane Batman cover for sure. He's only got like 2 of them pretty much. Or Spawn Batman's, I guess, a Todd McFarlane Batman cover. But not a lot of McFarlane Batman out there. Batman 423 has really trended well in price, you know, in the 9.8 or even in the Raws for sure. I always like to explain this one, Batman 423. It's almost like a Spawn prototype. This one coming out in 1988. Spawn came out in 1992. But, you know, Batman's kind of got the crazy cape like Spawn. And just, you know, Batman's eyes in the shadows is very like Spawn-like, where you pretty much can't see his face a lot, and it's just his eyes. So for me, this is like a Spawn prototype. First appearance of Spawn prototype, maybe. But if, you know, not even that, I just love Batman. I love McFarlane. So this has just got everything for me. 145 9.8s in the blue label. So it's always been an amazing collector item in the 9.8 as well. This is one I've probably like the second or third video I ever made was like a Batman, you know, buy Batman 423. It's a pretty cool McFarlane, you know, underfollowed Batman cover. 1 of 145 in the 9.8 blue label's awesome, though. I think there's over 100 signature series ones, I believe. 13.2%, the 9.8 percentage in the blue labels. That's great, too. For like a late 80s book, low teens, 13% of all graded copies in the blue label are 9.8s. The lower the better with the 9.8 ratio. That's amazing for a late 80s book. I think that's kind of underrated with this book. All McFarlane books seem to be a little bit more rare in the 9.8, and I think it's just they were really well circulated always because, you know, McFarlane's always had that cult of fans, so they're just a little bit tougher to find in the super high grade. So the prices here for this one, yeah, there was one, we'll go through kind of the full range. 1,380 saw one sell for, 1,700 one had sold for, and then another one had sold for $2,000. Yeah, so the market's been heating up, you know, Ultimate Follow 4, some of them are going right around $3,000 in the 9.8. Just in the last kind of month here, and I think this one reaching that $2,000 price. You know, I don't think I'd recommend that. I would try to stay in that 1,380 to 1,700 range. I think 2,000 probably going down as a bit of an overpay. It's great, you know, a great collector item and everything, but I think you could still get closer to 1,500, let's call it. But a great underfollowed DC key that certainly to me it's not underfollowed, but just another excuse to talk about it for me, which is fine. All right, a last one on the underfollowed list here. A Batman number 436. I got a CBCS 9.8 of Batman 436. This is one I've talked about for quite a while as well. On sort of one of the first like $100 videos I made, which was almost getting on like 2 years ago now. A Batman 436 was on that video. It was like a great Batman key in the CGC 9.8 that you could buy for like 120 bucks. I would see them sell for back then, maybe even like 99-ish, like right around 100, I guess we'll call it. For this one though, in the CBCS 9.8, purchased it about 2 years ago now maybe, and it was $99.99 in a buy it now in Canada. And I thought that was a pretty decent deal then. This one's really taken off, though. It's always been an underrated 9.8. There's 112 9.8s in the blue label, so this is on the CGC census. So, you know, this being a CBCS 9.8, but just gives you an idea of the rarity in the 9.8 in the super high grade. 19.4% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8. So this is great for, yeah, this almost getting into the 90s here. An under 20% 9.8 ratio for kind of an underfollowed Batman key is a really great 9.8 relative rarity. So that's another plus for this one. First appearance of Tim Drake, I think I mentioned that, Batman 436. I was really surprised to see a few sell Batman 436 lately in the CGC 9.8. One sold for $475. So clearly a year or two ago, they were around 100. They had bumped up there. I was sort of tempted to buy one. I think it was around 200 bucks, maybe 175 to 200, and that was sometime last year because having the CBCS, I still wanted a CGC. I don't have a CGC 9.8. Still wanted a CGC 9.8 in this one, and I was kind of hunting for one last year. They were 200, you know, 175 to 200, maybe 225 if you wanted it. So to see one sell for 475 is kind of a sign of the market. But Tim Drake has always been underrated first appearance, and I think it's just gaining some traction now as a pretty great key issue. And yeah, certainly an underfollowed DC CGC 9.8 to consider. Or maybe a CBCS 9.8. I think with the CBCS 9.8s, just quickly, the old case CBCS 9.8s, which that one is in, I despise. They're creaky. I have a couple others, and I think the books are bent in them, like they got damaged, because the CGC cases are way more sturdy. CBCS came out with a new case like mid last year. That's a lot better. The new case. So if you buy CBCS 9.8s or CBCS comics, I would buy the new case CBCS 9.8, which not most of them are the old case, like that are the ones that are resold online. Okay, we'll leave it at that little aside there. I'll have a full list in the description below of all the books we'll talk about if you want to have a quick look. But okay, some underfollowed DC ones. Yeah, a little bit Batman-centric, but yeah, this one was a fun one. I pretty much just love all these ones. I would love to have all of them in my collection, pretty much. All right, team, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.